You are born in the early 19th century, in a mining village outside Barnsley, Yorkshire, a place where smoke replaces weather, and the ground hums with the ache of men beneath it. They also call it the Temple of Industry. Your home is one room of brick and soot, where 6 people share one bed and one dream: that tomorrow's loaf won't be thinner than today's. Your father works the pit. His lungs already sound like gravel in a bucket. Your mother, on the other hand, scrubs miners' clothes in brown water until her hands split like dry clay. She still hums while she works, softly, the way people do when silence hurts more. You are their second child. The first was buried before he could walk. You learn early not to ask questions that cost too much energy to answer. You grow up hearing your father say he's proud to be born to the greatest empire on earth. You also hear your mother say soft prayers like, "God save the king." You wonder why the king still needs saving. After all, he doesn't go hungry like your family. Food in your house is hard to come by, and when it does, it's a mix of hard loaf, jellied eels, potatoes, scallops, oysters, and even buttermilk. Or whichever one your parents can afford that day. At age 5, you now know the village smells of sweat, ash, and cabbage gone sour. You play in the lanes with other children, barefoot, hollowed-eyed, pretending that mud is a game. Sometimes a cart of coal tips over, and you all rush to fill your hands, not with toys, but with tomorrow's heat. Once a week, the mine owner's carriage passes through. He owns your house and your body, though you don't know it yet. The men call him a good master because he hands out shillings at Christmas. The horses are white, shining like ghosts against the black road. You stare at the carriage, wondering what it feels like to ride instead of walk. You have always felt cold, but winter comes harder. Frost creeps in through the cracks in the walls. Your mother burns scraps of coal stolen from the heaps, the ones your father risks his job to pocket. You press your hands close to the flame, until pain reminds you that you're still alive. It is hard to tell, as your life is a tritone of gray, ash, and black. You think this is the worst life can be, until your father says it's time to earn your keep. He doesn't look at you when he says it, but you know that tomorrow, you'll go below. You don't yet know what darkness truly means. Not really, but soon you will. You're 6 when they first send you down. The mine smells of rot and iron, the air thick enough to chew. The foreman says you're small enough. That's meant to be a compliment. Families are paid by the load, not by the hour, so every pair of hands counts, even tiny ones. Your father signs your name on the ledger. You can't write yet, but it doesn't matter. The pit doesn't need you to spell. It just needs you to survive long enough to work. Your job is to sit in the dark and open doors. They call you a trapper. They tell you it is to regulate airflow and redirect fresh air to the mine. The tunnels are narrow, blacker than night, and your only company is the sound of coal carts rumbling somewhere far away. You sit beside a wooden door that keeps the air flowing through the mine. When a cart approaches, you pull the rope, open the door, and let it pass. Then you close it again and wait. Sometimes you wait for minutes, sometimes you wait for hours. You can't move far from your spot. You can't sleep. You can't light a candle. Those cost money, and a flame could be dangerous. You learn to listen for footsteps and whispers in the dark, to count the seconds between each passing cart just to stay sane. Lunch is bread and lard, maybe a cold potato if your mother had one to spare. Sometimes they forget to bring you food at all. You learn not to cry. Tears mix with soot and sting your eyes. You also stop being afraid of the dark. You start belonging to it. You do this for years, 6 days a week, 14 hours a day till you turn 9. At 9, you're bigger now. Too big for the trap doors, too small to rest. They call you a carter or hurrier now. A chain is buckled around your waist, the other end hooked to a cart full of coal. You drag it through the tunnels, crawling on hands and knees, the chain biting into your stomach. Sometimes you push with your head, and your hair rubs off until your scalp shines raw. The foreman always carries a stick. He uses it freely. If you're too slow, you get the stick. If you spill coal, you get the stick. If you cough too long, you get the stick. You learn to keep moving, not because you're strong, but because stopping hurts more. When you finally climb out at dusk, the wind always stings your face, and you realize your skin's turned gray from the year's dust. Your mother says you're growing fast. You don't feel like it. You feel hollow, like something carved out of coal and left behind in the dark. But every morning, when the whistle blows, you go back down, because that's what boys like you do. You're 12 now, though it's hard to keep count. Down here, there are no seasons, no sunrise, only shifts. You've grown stronger, but not taller. Your back stays bent even when you're above the ground, like the earth itself has claimed you. You can drag more, lift more, bleed more. Your hands are always raw, split open, black under the nails. Your knees are calloused, your lungs full of soot. When you cough, it sounds like gravel. When you spit, it's black. They say you're one of the lucky ones. That means you're not buried yet. Every week, someone disappears. Sometimes it's a boy you shared bread with. Sometimes it's a man who joked about quitting, crushed when the ceiling came down. The overseers call it an unfortunate occurrence. The priests call it God's will. You start to wonder what kind of God prefers to live underground. You've made friends, Tom, Will, and little Annie. They were apprenticed, they said. A fine word for being sold. They signed nothing. The master gets their wages. They get to keep bread, lard, and a place on the floor. You huddle with them when the cart stops and the tunnels go quiet. Tom's older, always coughing. But he teaches you how to brace your shoulder against the cart so the chain doesn't cut too deep. Will can make you laugh, or could. He used to sing hymns to the echo until the accident took him. The roof collapsed over the southern shaft, and when they dug him out, they said he looked like he was sleeping. They buried him in the graveyard without names. Annie worked as a trapper near your tunnel. She was 8. One morning, the air changed. You felt it. A strange sweetness before the explosion. When it cleared, her door never opened again. You stopped looking for her after 2 days. There are other ways to vanish too. One boy, Peter, was caught stealing coal from the foreman's table. They made everyone watch. The foreman broke both his hands with an iron rod. Said a thief doesn't need fingers. You never saw Peter again. Some say his family left town. Others say they buried him behind the pit head. No one bothers to clarify. When you go home, your mother still says grace. Your father doesn't bother anymore. The mine already took his prayers. Your younger sister looks at you like she doesn't recognize your face. Yes, they had another baby. You don't blame her. You barely recognize it yourself. You earn a few pennies now, enough to keep the fire going, not enough to buy time. You fall asleep sitting up, dreaming of air that doesn't choke you, of a sky you can touch. When the whistle blows again, you go back down, deeper this time, where the walls groan like they're remembering the last child they swallowed. Weeks later, you nearly join the list of names whispered after shifts. A beam snaps during your haul, and the roof comes down like thunder. You barely roll clear, trapped in a gap no higher than your chest, gasping, choking on dust. When they finally drag you out, someone says, "Lucky lad." You wonder what kind of luck leaves you alive just to keep crawling. Another time, you make a mistake, a small one. You slip a chunk of coal into your pocket on the way out. Not much, just enough to help your mother keep the fire burning through the night. You think no one will notice. They notice. The foreman calls you into his office. He doesn't shout. He just closes the door. You come out half an hour later, face bruised, ribs aching. You stay home for a week pretending you're sick. Your father doesn't ask what happened. He just stares at the floor. Your mother won't meet your eyes. She started taking your little sister with her to wash miners' clothes by the stream, to scrub blood and soot from the shirts of men you might work beside tomorrow. You realize she's joining the same fight, the same quiet, endless hustling. When you go back, you don't speak to anyone. You just work, harder than before. You drag, lift, and haul until the pain feels clean. You stop thinking about fairness, only survival. And somewhere between the echoes of picks and coughs, it hits you. The law doesn't care. The mine never did. It just needs you alive enough to keep the coal moving, to keep the king's engine running. Years pass, and you turn 15. You're now officially a man, according to everyone who's never spent a day underground. Your back has folded in on itself. You work as a breaker now. So you sit behind a conveyor belt as you separate coal from impurities with your bare hands. You get cuts on your fingers and your chest sounds like gravel when you breathe. But your pay is steady, and your mother calls it a blessing. So you stay. You also pick up a mining habit, cigarette smoking. It's one of the few joys of life left. You cough after taking a couple each day, but you tell yourself it's just a cough, just the dust, just the cold. The truth is, it's all of them, mixing, settling, building a little grave inside your lungs. But you just wheeze and keep moving. There's also a girl now, Clara. She works at the match factory. Her hands are always nicked and yellowed from the phosphorus, but she smiles like someone who still believes in summer. You walk her home sometimes, both of you smelling like different kinds of death. She talks about leaving town one day. You promise you'll go together. You mean it. That's why you start taking night classes after shifts, sitting in a dim church hall with a dozen other dreamers, trying to make sense of letters that swim before your eyes. You want to be a clerk, or maybe a bookkeeper, anything that keeps you above ground. You practice writing your name on scrap paper, your hands trembling too much to make the lines straight. Back at the mines, you take every extra hour you can. More coal means more pay, and more pay means a ticket to London, to something cleaner, quieter, possible. But your body keeps saying no, and you keep ignoring it. The coughing fit gets longer. The bruises take longer to fade. The doctor calls it miner's asthma. You call it the cost of daydreaming. Still, you tell yourself, one more year, one more haul. You'll get out. You have to. You keep working because that's what you've always done. Smoking too. Every morning you drag your body into the mine, coughing black and breathing shallow. The routine is your comfort. Pick, haul, breathe, smoke, ache, repeat. The tunnel walls feel more like home than the sky ever did. Then one summer afternoon, the stream bursts its banks. You can hear it above, a roaring, heavy drumming that sounds almost like thunder, almost like the world splitting open. You keep your head down, shovel in rhythm. Then someone shouts, "Water." It comes fast, a cold roar through the tunnels, carrying mud, stones, timber, everything. You drop your tools and run. You don't even think, you just run. But the tunnels twist and turn, and you can't tell which way is up anymore. When it's over, the mine is quiet again. Too quiet. The lamps are gone. The tunnels are slick with silt and ruin. You hear your name faintly. Then someone whispers what you've already feared. The water broke through the lower seams. The trappers didn't stand a chance. Your sister was one of them. She was 10. They say she never screamed. The flood took her before she could. You sit outside the pit mouth for hours after they bring her out, soaked in mud and silence. Your father can't come. He's too sick now. His lungs too far gone. Your mother wails softly, the sound of someone breaking in half. You blame everybody for it. Hadn't you learned enough from Annie, from Will? She didn't need to work. Your wages were enough. But the fear of hunger made you agree to her working. That night, you decide you're done. You tell Clara you're leaving for London, that you'll find honest work, clean work. She nods, eyes wide. You promise your mother you'll send for her soon. You mean it. London greets you with fog and noise, but also air that doesn't choke you as much as Barnsley. You get a clerk's job at the West India Docks. Your letter's shaky, but legible. Your numbers neat. It feels unreal, sitting behind a desk, earning by the pen instead of the pick. You start to think you've won, that you've beaten the system. A year has passed since you came to London. You're 20 now. Clara is blooming. You're both expecting a child, and you're already planning to bring your mother over. Then the cough returns. It starts small, a tickle, a whisper of old dust. Then it grows. Soon, every breath tastes of iron. The doctor says it's consumption, maybe the black lung too. Your lungs never forgot where they came from, and so you begin to waste away. You lie in bed, thinner each day, watching Clara sew by the window, one hand resting on her stomach. You pretend not to see her teary eyes. You imagine your child's face. You imagine your mother's grief when word reaches her. You imagine a life that almost was. You wonder how Clara will survive in your absence. She tells you not to worry. She reminds you she took the same night classes, learned the same numbers, and that she'll find work. You believe her because you have to. The cough worsens. The light grows fainter. You count your breaths like coins slipping through your fingers. You remember the tunnels, the cold, the echo of pickaxes. You remember your sister's laughter before the flood, your father's hand on your shoulder, your mother's lullaby that smelled of coal dust. When the end comes, it's not loud. No angels, no trumpets, just one long breath that doesn't return. You die a month before the baby is born, quietly, as if slipping back into the dark you once called home. In time, the world above finally noticed the world below. Reports were written, commissions formed, and speeches made in rooms too bright for men who'd never seen a mine. They call it progress, the Mines and Collieries Act of 1842. Then the slow crawl towards something called reform. Children are pulled from the dark, one law at a time. Females first, boys still work. Some go to school, some starve instead. The mines stay open, but the smallest bodies are replaced by smaller machines. The coughing doesn't stop, it just changes names. Years later, when the last pits will close and the last coal carts rust in silence, people will build museums to remember how far they've come. They will forget that it took 1,000 tiny graves to get there. But somewhere in the dust, if you listen closely, you can still hear it. A child's breath, steady and patient, waiting for daylight that never came.